It was supposed to be just another field visit. Elijah Monroe, the youngest self-made billionaire in the country, sat back in his custom SUV, scrolling through projections for a luxury eco-resort his team was planning to build outside a remote township in South Carolina. They had driven through miles of dirt roads and makeshift markets, the locals barely looking up as his convoy passed, except for a small commotion near a crowded roadside. A child stood there, barefoot, holding a tray of roasted sweet potatoes, her eyes scanning the crowd with silent urgency. Elijah almost dismissed the sight until something shimmered against the afternoon light. A silver chain with a lion pendant. His lion pendant. One of a kind. He'd given it away 7 years ago to a woman whose name he never asked, only her laughter echoing in memory. He leaned forward. "Stop the car," he ordered. The SUV halted abruptly, drawing confused glances from his team. Elijah stepped out slowly, dust kicking up under his Italian loafers. People stared. He didn't care. The girl looked about 6. Her uniform was faded, her braids undone at the ends, yet she stood with a grace that was impossible to ignore. He approached quietly. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked up, big brown eyes filled with something he couldn't quite name. "Lena," she whispered. His eyes dropped to the necklace again. "Where did you get that?" Her fingers curled around it protectively. "Mama gave it to me." Elijah crouched down, heart hammering. "And your father?" She blinked, then answered with the kind of calm that could break a man. "I've never met him." Something in him cracked. He nodded, reaching into his wallet. "I'll take all your potatoes," he said, placing money gently into her tray. Lena hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you, sir." She gave a tiny bow, the kind that made grown men feel like kings, and began walking away. Elijah stood frozen. Then he turned to his driver. "Follow her, at a distance. Don't let her see you. I need to know where she lives." The man nodded and disappeared into the crowd. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The driver returned, breathless. "She vanished, sir. Turned into an alley by the fabric stalls. After that, gone." Elijah said nothing. That night, sleep refused to come. His mind played images of a little girl in a tattered uniform holding a piece of his past around her neck like it was sacred. By dawn, he was back, this time with a bag. Inside, polished black shoes, 3 picture books, a box lunch, a math workbook, a plush lion toy, and a note card with his name. He found her in the same spot, standing as if she'd been carved from patience. When she saw him, her eyes narrowed. "You came back." "I told you," he said gently. "I'm not a bad person." He placed the bag at her feet. "What's this?" she asked, suspicious. "Open it," he said. She peeked in and gasped. "Books, a toy, real shoes." Her smile flickered, unpracticed. "For me?" He nodded. "If you'll let me." She stared for a long second, then looked down. "If you're not bad, I'll take you to see my mom, but no lies. If you lie, I won't talk to you again." "Fair," he said softly. They walked through dusty paths, past crooked fences and rusted roofs, until they reached a fragile wooden shack held together by prayers and peeling paint. Lena knocked gently. "Mama, someone's here." The door creaked open. A woman stood there, thin and pale, wrapped in a threadbare shawl. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes, though tired, widened in an instant as they met his. Elijah felt winded. She didn't speak, didn't blink, just held the doorframe, breathing hard. "I'm Elijah," he offered, unsure why his voice sounded different. She cut him off. "Marielle," she said, her voice dry, almost resentful. "Not just her mother." He flinched. "Have we met?" She gave a bitter smile. "No, you wouldn't remember." But she remembered everything. A flashback flared in her eyes, a dark lounge bar 7 years ago. She had been dancing, free and full of joy, while he had watched her from the bar in a tailored black suit. They'd talked, danced, laughed. Then silence, a hotel room, and a necklace. "You're the strongest woman I've ever met," he had whispered, and in the morning he vanished. No name, no goodbye, just absence. Back in the present, Marielle's hand trembled. Elijah looked around the one-room home. Cracked walls, a sagging cot, the air thick with smoke and sickness. Lena poured water into a chipped cup. "Drink, Mama. You're sweating again." Elijah watched, then finally asked, "How did your daughter get that necklace?" Marielle's gaze hardened. "Found it, near the market." "That's not true," Elijah said. "That pendant was made once, just once. I had it designed. I gave it to someone." She looked away. "Things get lost. Maybe I got lucky." But her hands betrayed her shaking slightly, pulling at the edge of her shawl. Then the cough began, raw and relentless. Lena rushed to rub her back. "Mama, lie down." Elijah reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "There's money. For medicine, food." Marielle pushed it away. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity." Her voice, though weak, sliced through him. "You don't get to vanish and come back with money, expecting to fix everything." He had no answer, only a thudding in his chest. He came back the next day, and the next. Every afternoon, Lena would find him waiting by her roadside spot with a snack, a storybook, or a question. At first, she was cautious, then curious. Soon, she laughed freely, showing him her schoolwork, pointing at clouds and pretending they were animals. "Why is English so hard?" she grumbled once. He chuckled. "Even rich people struggle with it." She giggled. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. She'd eat roasted corn while he sat beside her, watching the village life unfold. Peace crept into him, unfamiliar but welcome. A kind of quiet that money never bought. But peace always comes with a cost. One afternoon, his assistant whispered urgently, "Sir, that's the third meeting you've missed. Investors are asking questions. You're being seen in the slums too often." Elijah looked over at Lena, sitting on a step, drawing in the dirt. "I'm busy," he said, "with something important." That evening, in his penthouse in San Francisco, he sat with Celeste, poised, elegant, flipping through wedding brochures. "This one's tasteful," she said, pointing at a beach ceremony layout. Elijah nodded absently. His mind was somewhere else, with a girl drawing lines in the dirt, with a woman coughing behind thin walls. Celeste placed a hand on his. "Elijah, where are you?" "Work," he lied. That night, he opened his drawer and took out a worn lion plush toy. Lena had given it to him that morning. "For when you're sad," she'd said. He stared at it, then closed the drawer quietly. The next morning, he returned to the village in a gray drizzle, carrying a bag of groceries and a math book. As he reached the shack, he heard Marielle's voice through the door, soft, frayed. "I don't think Elijah remembers anything, but he keeps coming, giving her gifts, talking like she's his." He froze. Raindrops hit his umbrella like ticking clocks. Silence. Then her next word struck him like thunder. "It's strange, isn't it? He doesn't even know she's his daughter." His heart skipped. No amount of rain could drown that truth. He whispered to himself, "My daughter." He stumbled back. The pieces fit. The pendant, the laugh, the gravity he felt when Lena smiled. His own blood, standing under the sun, selling potatoes to strangers. He didn't wait. He pushed open the door, breath ragged, eyes burning. Marielle stood up, startled. "Why didn't you tell me?" he said, voice cracked open. "Why didn't you tell me she was mine?" Her lips trembled. "Because I didn't want your pity. Because you disappeared once already. I thought if I told you, you'd come for her. And leave again." "I didn't know," Elijah whispered. "But now I do. I feel it in my bones." He knelt, uncaring of the mud soaking through his pants. Lena peeked from behind a curtain, watching. "I love her. I want to be in her life, every day, and I want you too. Please, marry me." Marielle gasped. Before she could answer, Elijah's phone buzzed. A message from Celeste. "Don't make any decisions until we talk. I have something important to tell you." He stared at the screen, then at Marielle, then at Lena. The girl stepped forward quietly. "Are you really my dad?" Elijah opened his arms. She ran into them like a flood. "Yes, my star," he whispered into her hair, "and I'll never leave you again." The air inside the shack was still, as if holding its breath for what might come next. Elijah remained on his knees, his arms wrapped around Lena, who clung to him like she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. Marielle stood motionless, her hands trembling slightly, unsure if this was a dream or a new kind of heartbreak waiting to unfold. Elijah finally rose, lifting Lena gently into his arms, and sat down on the worn-out bench against the wall. She nestled into his chest, her small fingers absent-mindedly touching the buttons of his shirt. Marielle slowly stepped back, leaning against the doorframe, her breathing shallow. "Why now?" she asked quietly. Elijah looked up at her, his expression raw. "Because I didn't know. I swear to you, Marielle, if I had known—" "But you didn't," she cut in. "You left, Elijah. You left without a name, without a word, like none of it mattered." He winced. The memory of that night, the heat, the laughter, the quiet in the hotel room felt suddenly different now, laced with consequence and guilt. "I was selfish, immature. I didn't understand what I was leaving behind," he said. Lena looked between them, sensing the weight of their words but not understanding all of it. She climbed down from Elijah's lap and walked over to her mother, holding her hand. "Are you mad at him?" she asked. Marielle knelt beside her daughter and brushed a hand over her curls. "No, sweetheart. I'm just trying to understand." Elijah stood slowly and reached into his coat again. "I want to help, not with just money, but everything. Her school, her dreams, you, if you'll let me." Marielle looked at the thick envelope he placed on the table. This time she didn't push it away. She simply nodded once, then turned to Lena. "Come help me heat the stew." Lena grinned and ran to the small pot in the corner, humming softly. Elijah watched the two of them move in sync, like a quiet dance forged by necessity and love. Later that evening, Elijah returned to the hotel his team had rented on the edge of the township. His assistant met him in the lobby, face strained. "You've missed 3 investor calls. Celeste has called 12 times. The board is concerned." Elijah ignored the phone buzzing in his hand. "I need you to cancel my meetings for the next week." The assistant blinked. "Sir?" "Just do it," he said, already walking toward the elevator. That night, Elijah stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. He replayed every moment of the day in his mind. Lena's laughter, Marielle's guarded stare. The message from Celeste still sat unread. His fingers hovered over it, then tapped. The voice memo played in a soft whisper. "Elijah, please, don't make any big decisions until we speak. I have something important to tell you." He stared at the screen, then out the window into the darkness. In the morning, he returned to the shack. Lena ran to him, her eyes bright. "Guess what? I got a gold star in reading." "You're amazing," he said, lifting her into a spin. Marielle stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips fighting a smile. "She's been extra motivated since yesterday." "Well," Elijah said, placing Lena down, "genius runs in the family." Marielle gave him a look that was half sarcastic, half soft. He stepped forward and held out a folded paper. "It's the application to enroll her in the best school in the region. I've already covered the fees." Marielle took the paper, stared at it, then looked up at him. "Why are you doing all this?" Elijah didn't hesitate. "Because I missed 7 years. I'm not missing another day." For the next week, Elijah became a fixture in their lives. He walked Lena to school, brought groceries, fixed the leaking roof with tools he'd never used in his life. The villagers whispered, curious, but slowly warmed to him. In the afternoons, he helped Lena with her homework. Marielle watched from the doorway, arms folded but eyes softening with each passing day. On the 7th evening, after Lena had fallen asleep on his lap mid-story, Marielle brought him a cup of tea. She sat beside him, cautious. "She's changed since you came. Happier, more sure of herself." Elijah looked down at the sleeping child. "So have I." Silence hung between them. Then Marielle asked, "What about your life in the city? Your fiancé?" He hesitated. "Celeste is beautiful, intelligent, everything my world expects me to be with." "But," Marielle prompted. "But she doesn't make me feel like this," he admitted. "Here, with Lena, with you, it's different. It's real." Marielle sipped her tea, eyes down. "That may be true, but real doesn't erase the past, and it doesn't make choices disappear." The next morning, Celeste arrived. Her car stopped in the middle of the village, polished and foreign among the dusty roads. She stepped out, dressed in cream silk and red heels, her face set like stone. Villagers stared. Children ran to hide behind stalls. Elijah was walking back from the market with Lena when he saw her. He froze. "Celeste?" She walked toward them slowly, her eyes fixed on Lena. "So it's true," she said. "You've been hiding here, with her." "Celeste, don't," she said, her voice tight. "I have something to tell you." She glanced at Lena, then pulled him aside. They stood a few feet away. "I'm pregnant," she said. "I didn't plan it. I wasn't even sure I'd tell you, but you deserve to know." The words dropped between them like thunder. Elijah stared at her. "Are you sure it's mine?" "Yes," she said. "I haven't been with anyone else." His world tilted. Behind him, Lania was chasing a butterfly. Celeste's eyes brimmed with tears. "You're a father, again, and I need to know what that means for us." He didn't answer. His heart felt split in two. Marielle appeared then, standing near the shack, arms crossed. Lena ran to her, grabbing her hand. Elijah looked between them. One life he had abandoned, now calling him back. Another just beginning. "I need time," he said. "We don't have much of that," Celeste replied. She turned and walked back to the car. That night, Elijah stood at the edge of the village, the stars above bright and silent. He held the lion plush toy in his hand. 2 children, 2 paths, 1 heart. Tomorrow, he would have to choose. The morning sun climbed slowly over the hills, casting soft gold over the village rooftops. Elijah hadn't slept. He had paced most of the night between the narrow walls of his temporary lodging, the lion plush clutched in one hand, Celeste's words echoing in his head. "I'm pregnant." He had barely processed it, but the truth was undeniable. He was about to become a father again, only this time he already knew. Yet the question that haunted him wasn't just about Celeste. It was about Lena, about Marielle, about the life he could have had, should have had, if he had stayed. The air smelled of smoke and morning bread as he walked back toward the shack. His steps slowed when he saw Lena sitting on the step outside, legs swinging, her head tilted skyward as she watched a bird hop along the dirt path. When she spotted him, her face lit up. "You're back," she said. He smiled, though it was a tired smile. "I told you I'd be back every day." She patted the step beside her. He sat down. For a moment, neither spoke. Just silence and birdsong and the distant voices of vendors setting up for the market. Then she asked, "Who was that lady yesterday?" Elijah hesitated. "Her name is Celeste. She's someone I used to care about." "Is she sad?" Lena asked. She looked sad. He turned to face her. "Yes, she is." Lena looked at her hands. "Mama's sad too, but she never says it out loud." Elijah gently tucked one of her curls behind her ear. "You're very smart, you know that?" She shrugged. "Mama says I see things most people miss." "She's right," he said. They sat a little longer. Then the shack door creaked open and Marielle stepped out, her face unreadable. She carried a small tin tray with tea and placed it on the step beside them. "She slept better last night," she said. "You being here helps." Elijah looked up at her. She looked strong this morning, even in her weariness. "Marielle," he began, "we need to talk." She nodded. "I figured." They stepped away from Lena towards the side of the house where the sun hadn't yet reached. "Celeste is pregnant," he said. Marielle flinched just slightly. "I see. I didn't know until yesterday. I don't even know what I feel yet, but I had to tell you." She folded her arms. "So what now? You go back to her and pretend this never happened?" "No," he said quickly. "I can't forget this. I can't forget you, or Lena." "But there's a child involved," she said softly. "You can't walk away from that either." Elijah ran a hand through his hair. "I don't want to walk away from either, but I also don't want to destroy what's been rebuilt here." "You can't have both," she said, but her voice lacked sharpness. She wasn't angry, just tired, hurt, guarded. "I don't want your pity, Elijah, and I don't want to be the woman you choose only after life complicated your plans." "That's not what this is," he said. "I love Lena, and I'm realizing now I love you too." Marielle closed her eyes for a second. "Then prove it. Not with gifts, not with promises, but with presence." Lena appeared then, clutching her reading book. "Will you walk me to school again today?" she asked. Elijah looked at Marielle, and she nodded slightly. "Always," he said to Lena. That afternoon, back at his hotel, Elijah's assistant was waiting with a laptop open. "We have a problem," the assistant said. "Photos of you here have surfaced. The media is spinning stories. Investors are calling non-stop." Elijah leaned against the table, silent. The assistant turned the screen. A tabloid headline screamed, "Elijah Monroe seen in remote village with alleged secret daughter." A blurred image showed Lena holding his hand, her lion plush in the other. Elijah's stomach dropped. "Damage control?" he asked. "We can deny, say she's just a local girl you sponsored. But if there's truth to it and you confirm, they'll crucify me," he finished. "You're not just a CEO, you're a brand," the assistant said. "And brands need polish." Elijah closed the laptop with a snap. "No, sir, no lies," he said. "I'm not hiding her." That night, he returned to the shack with Lena's enrollment confirmation to the best private school in the region. "She starts next month," he told Marielle. "Transportation, tuition, uniform, all arranged." Marielle nodded slowly. "That's a big change for her." "She deserves it," Elijah said, then added, "So do you." Marielle looked at him, eyes searching. "What about Celeste?" "She wants to meet," he admitted. "She wants clarity." "Then give it to her," Marielle said. "She deserves that too." The next morning, Elijah met Celeste at a cafe just outside the township. She wore black glasses and a muted dress. No makeup, no press facade, just Celeste. "Thank you for coming," she said. He nodded. They ordered coffee, neither touching it. Then Celeste said, "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to understand where we stand." Elijah took a breath. "I care about you. I always will, but I can't marry you." Celeste didn't flinch. "Because of her?" "Because of Lena," he said. "Because of what I feel when I'm around her. I found something I didn't even know I'd lost. I have to be a father, and I want to try to be a partner again. But not to you." Celeste sipped her coffee. "That little girl is lucky," she said quietly. "So is her mother." Elijah reached for her hand. "You'll never be alone, Celeste, no matter what." Her lips trembled. "I know." As he stood to leave, Celeste placed a hand on her belly. "You're going to be a father twice, Elijah. That doesn't change. Don't make the same mistake with this one." He nodded solemnly, then turned and walked back into the sunlit road that led to the only place that now felt like home. That evening, Lena was waiting with the drawing in her hand. "It's our family," she beamed. "Me, Mama, and you, and a baby lion." Elijah crouched beside her. "I love it." Marielle stepped out of the doorway. "How did it go?" He met her eyes. "I told her the truth, all of it." Marielle took a slow breath. "And the baby?" "We'll figure it out," he said. "But I'm not going anywhere." She looked at him for a long moment, then reached out and took his hand. Rain fell gently the next morning, not the kind that sent people running for cover, but the soft kind, like the sky was trying to whisper something kind and slow. Elijah stood by the window of the school's front office, his hands in his coat pockets, watching Lena through the glass as she sat in her new uniform, clutching her lunchbox, waiting to be called into her first class. She looked nervous, but her feet tapped against the leg of the bench in rhythm, and her lion plush was peeking out of her backpack like a quiet little guardian. Marielle stood beside him, arms folded, eyes fixed on her daughter. The school official behind them was speaking, but neither of them was really listening. They were both somewhere else, somewhere between disbelief and gratitude. "She'll be okay," Elijah said softly. "I know," Marielle answered. "But I won't lie. My chest feels like it's holding back a storm." He smiled at her gently. "She's stronger than both of us." The administrator eventually gave them a nod, and they stepped out into the hallway. Elijah bent down and kissed Lena's forehead. "Be brave today, okay?" She nodded. "Will you be here when I'm done?" "Always," he said, then added, "We'll celebrate. Ice cream?" She grinned. "Chocolate and sprinkles." "Deal." As the bell rang and children began pouring in from the courtyard, Elijah and Marielle stepped aside, watching as Lena disappeared into the flow of new beginnings. Outside, the sun was beginning to push through the gray. Back at the village, later that afternoon, Elijah stood near the old market stall where he'd first seen Lena selling sweet potatoes, a bag of roasted corn in one hand, just the way she liked it. The stall was still there, though the tray sat empty today. He smiled at the memory, at the exactness of it, of the universe calling to him through a child. A girl he hadn't known was his, but whose presence had undone everything he thought he knew about success. A few vendors nodded respectfully as he passed. Some of them smiled, others still watched him with curiosity. But the whispers were quieter now, softer, respectful. He was no longer a stranger here. When he returned to the shack that evening, Marielle had opened the windows. Sunlight streaked in across the patched floor. The place still smelled of earth and firewood, but it felt warmer now, more alive. She was sweeping the floor, and a pot of lentils simmered gently in the corner. He stepped inside. She looked up. "Hey." "Hey," he said. "I've been thinking about something." She paused. "Should I be worried?" "Only if you hate beautiful things." She raised an eyebrow. He walked to the corner of the room and pulled out a small wooden box. He opened it, revealing a delicate ring, not the one he'd once picked for Celeste, but one newly chosen, simple and silver, shaped like two small branches intertwining. "I don't want to propose to you because I feel guilty," he said. "I want to propose because when I think about what home means now, I think about you, about Lena, about waking up in the morning and knowing that even if I have to fly out to cities with glass towers and suits that don't breathe, I'll always want to come back here, to us." Marielle stared at him, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. "You didn't have to buy a ring to say that." "I know," he said, "but it's really pretty." She chuckled, a sound he was coming to cherish, and took the ring. Her fingers brushed his. "You already live in my heart, Elijah Monroe, and you've ruined it for anyone else." "I plan to," he said. That evening, Lena came home with a drawing. "This is you," she said, pointing at a man with curly hair and a briefcase. "And this is Mama. And this is me with a big backpack. And that," she added, pointing proudly at a small stick figure in the corner, "is my baby brother or sister." Elijah blinked. "What?" Marielle laughed. "She thinks all families come with at least 2 kids. He knelt beside Lena. "Well, we'll see about that." And the next few weeks passed like a song versus a laughter, homework, early morning walks, and quiet evenings with hot soup and old radio shows. Celeste called once, just once. Her voice was composed. "I've decided to stay in Milan, raise the baby on my own terms. But don't worry if they ask about their father. I'll tell them you're someone they can be proud of." Elijah sat in silence after the call, feeling a bittersweet gratitude. He whispered into the dark, "Thank you." And life, as it tends to do, moved forward. One day, the villagers awoke to find the empty lot near the market transformed new wood, fresh paint, children's books in crates, and a banner that read, "Lena's Corner, free readin' for all." It was Elijah's idea. Marielle's name was on the permit. Lena's picture was on the wall, holding a book like it was treasure. Tourists passing through sometimes stopped and asked who the little girl was. Locals just smiled and said, "She's the one who reminded him where his heart was." And Elijah? He still wore tailored suits, still made calls to boardrooms with glass tables, but his heart lived somewhere else entirely. In a dusty village where the air smelled like yam and freedom, where a little girl had once stood in the road with pride in her eyes and a lion around her neck. He often said the business deal of his life never showed up on spreadsheets. It had brown eyes, wild braids, and a laugh that shook the walls of his old beliefs. And somewhere, under a sky full of light and second chances, a family was being rewritten not by wealth, not by legacy, but by love finally returned to its rightful home.